When Donald Trump selected Matthew Whitaker to be his acting attorney general after Jeff Sessions was forced out, we knew that there were endless problems with this. We knew about Whitaker's previous comments about how if he were in a position to influence the Robert Mueller Trump-Russia investigation, he has very specific ideas for how he would starve it of funds in order to prevent it from happening effectively. We've talked about how Matthew Whitaker is on the record previously as publicly saying he believes that the entire Trump-Russia investigation by Robert Mueller is an overreach from a legal perspective. And so where we kind of came to where we ended up in terms of our conclusions was that Matthew Whitaker had no business whatsoever being acting attorney general for even an hour, never mind a few months. But ultimately, he remained in that position and continues to be in it today until Attorney General Barr is presumably confirmed at some point relatively soon. So that gets us to Friday. On Friday, Whitaker testified before the House Judiciary Committee, and it was such a gong show of embarrassment for all that is good and logical in the world. And I'm going to play some clips for you here. We're going to start with Congressman Jerry Nadler, who asked a really simple question, which was, have you ever been asked to approve any request or action to be taken by the special counsel? And his answer was, Congressman, your time is up. And you will actually hear the room audibly gasp and groan at this answer from Matthew Whitaker. Take a look at this.
In your capacity as acting attorney general, have you ever been asked to approve any request or action to be taken by the special counsel?
Mr. Chairman, I see that your 5 minutes is up, and so I'm here voluntarily. We have agreed to 5-minute rounds, and
the committee.
I think that's a fine place to end the 5-minute rule.
You can't use the fact that your testimony is voluntary as a reason not to answer. And if anything, that's a reason to subpoena this guy right away and get answers to these questions. And then in comes Congressman David Cicilline from Rhode Island. And he starts getting into it with Whitaker, and it goes just as poorly. Take a look.
You were briefed by the special counsel. You've acknowledged that. Did you share that information with any members of your staff, the information you learned in that briefing from the special counsel or his team?
Congressman, as I previously testified, there was one other individual in that briefing with.
And who is that individual?
It is the U.S. Attorney from the Eastern District of California who I've brought on.
What is the name of the individual, Mr. Whitaker?
His name is Greg Scott.
So did you communicate any information you learned in those briefings to other members of your staff?
I don't believe so, no.
So that you understand, those slow answers, those pauses from Whitaker are because at the beginning of his 5 minutes, Congressman Cicilline said, I have limited time. I don't need you to thank me for my questions. I don't need you to say the questions are good. Just answer the questions. And then Whitaker adopted this strategy of just pausing for a few seconds before each answer, and it kept going, and it was just as bad.
Do you know whether any information that you learned in those briefings were communicated to anyone at the White House?
As I mentioned previously, Congressman, we have kept a very close.
Mr. Whitaker, it's a yes or a no. Do you know whether it was communicated to anybody at the White House?
As I sit here today, I don't know whether it was communicated.
Did you put into place any restrictions or limitations or instructions to your staff not to share this information with anyone at the White House or the president's legal team?
Yes, together with the general standard that investigative information and materials are need to know and law enforcement.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker.
You've got to hand it to him. I mean, he's doing a great job of eating up as much of those 5 minutes as possible without really saying anything. Let's continue to the third clip.
Did the president lash out at you after Michael Cohen's guilty plea for lying to Congress about a Trump organization project to build a tower in Moscow?
The president specifically tweeted that he had not lashed out.
I'm asking you, Mr. Whitaker, did the president lash out at you? I'm not asking you what he tweeted. I don't have a lot of confidence in the veracity of his tweets. I'm asking you under oath.
Congressman, that is based on an unsubstantiated.
Sir, answer the question, yes or no. Did the president lash out to you about Mr. Cohen's guilty plea?
No, he did not.
And did anyone from the White House or anyone on the president's behalf lash out at you?
No.
So then we get into a really good logic pretzel. On January 22nd, Congressman Nadler sent Whitaker a letter with questions that Democrats might ask him during exactly these hearings that we're watching about his conversations with Donald Trump. And in the letter, Nadler tells Whitaker, consult with the White House ahead of time about whether Donald Trump would invoke executive privilege over those questions, allowing Whitaker not to answer without simply refusing to answer. This is really key. Cicilline asks Whitaker whether he showed the questions to the White House, and Whitaker says that he didn't. So thus, if Whitaker hasn't shown the questions to the White House, there'd be no way to assert privilege, and it gets really confusing, and then Whitaker just won't answer whether or not he's actually spoken to Donald Trump about the Mueller or any other investigation into him, which, of course, he shouldn't be doing.
Did you share the questions that Mr. Nadler forwarded to you prior to this hearing with anyone at the White House or the president's legal counsel?
Congressman, I did not.
So when you claimed earlier that you were going to invoke a privilege, you were invoking a privilege about questions the president hasn't even seen.
Congressman, to be clear, I'm not invoking any privilege.
Well, you said earlier that you, in your written testimony, that you would not answer questions about your conversations with the president. Did you not?
Yes, I did.
So you are not sitting here today saying the president has instructed you not to answer a question, correct?
I am not sitting here today saying that the president has instructed.
So then you're prepared to answer all these questions.
Congressman, I think I was pretty explicit in my opening statement.
So have you spoken to the president, Mr. Whitaker, about the Mueller investigation?
Congressman, as I have previously testified, did not talk to the president about the Mueller investigation.
Have you ever spoken to the president or parts of his legal team about information that you've learned in your capacity as acting attorney general related to the Mueller investigation or any other criminal investigation involving the president?
Congressman, while I have specifically been saying that I'm not going to comment about my conversations with the president or his senior staff, I have also been very clear that the president has not instructed me to do anything.
So that wasn't my question. My question is, have you had conversations about what you learned? That's a yes or a no.
Congressman, I spend all day, every day talking.
Mr. Whitaker, my question is very specific. Have you spoken to the president or his legal team about what you've learned in the Mueller investigation or the related criminal investigations that may involve the president? Yes or no?
Congressman, as I specifically answered earlier to a question.
Mr. Whitaker, you're clearly not going to answer the question, so I'm going to move on.
Yeah, so we don't get any further with that. And then the cherry on top, Pat, is that after the hearing, Whitaker was spotted at Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. When you watch this, does this guy strike you as honest and forthcoming and transparent?
Well, I'm glad he's just the acting attorney general. And I think compared to this guy, William Barr is going to do a lot better. It's not easy to obstruct justice. I mean, the president has struggled with that continually over the past couple of years. And Whitaker didn't do too well either.
No, certainly not. And we will see ultimately what the day is where future Attorney General Barr takes over. One of today's sponsors is privacy.com/Pakman, which is a free service that I myself use. Really useful in many different ways. Takes just a few seconds to link your debit card to privacy.com. Then you can create virtual credit cards that are linked directly to your bank account, and you use those virtual credit card numbers to buy things online, which protects your actual debit card so that it's not spread all over the internet. And one of the best things about it is how their mobile app and browser extensions for Chrome and Firefox make it really easy to use. Let's say, for example, that I'm signing up for a David Pakman Show membership. In the credit card number field, I already see the privacy.com icon. I just click it, choose which of my virtual credit cards I want to use, and the credit card number, expiration date, and security code are automatically entered. I can put in any zip code I want, and I'm done. And if you try to use my credit card number that you just saw on the screen, it doesn't matter, because I've already deleted that virtual card, and that's the beauty of privacy.com. There are a ton of advantages to using a free service like this. For example, you can sign up for as many free trials as you want, then just delete the virtual credit card you used and never worry about getting charged for it. It protects you from getting hacked. It protects you when companies are hacked, which happens all the time. It is all completely free. All you have to do is click the link under this video to get started. And for a limited time, they're giving everyone in our audience $5 towards your first purchase when you sign up using that link.